For those of you who are not familiar about the wholesale applications community, it was started in February 2010. And the thesis behind it was there's about 20 members that got together saying we should work together to reduce fragmentation in the industry and see if we can provide kind of common solutions in that area. You advance forward to February 2011, and what we announced is kind of the official launching of WAC. Where it stands today, there are 72 members. There's basically the #1 and #2 operator in every market with the exception of India. So in the Americas, you've got TELUS, Rogers, Bell Canada. In the US, you've got Verizon, AT&T. Latin American, you have American Mobile and Telefonica. Europe, you have all the operators there. Asia, you've got China Mobile, China Unicom, Docomo, KDDI, AU, things of that nature, Smart in the Philippines. So you've got all the members who are operators in that area. And then you also have a constituent of strategic people who are also participating. So you have the likes of Qualcomm, Intel, Samsung, Huawei, things of that nature. So it's kind of an interesting cast of characters. And again, you sit there going, what's the point? What are they trying to work on? How is this collection of people going to really work? And is this a bit like the UN trying to figure out the situation in the Middle East? And at times it is. But the reality is actually it's gone very, very well. And if you think about, again, from the genesis in February 2010, where we're at right now, so I'll kind of recap for you what we're working on and what we announced in Mobile World Congress. So we came out with what was called WAC 1.0. And read that as being kind of a widget specification. So it's a very light packaging to run cross-OS, cross-device in that area. So that was, if you will, one of the board members kind of framed as solidarity, how you kind of work together in that area. I think what caught people's attention is the announcements we made in Barcelona, which is WAC 2.0. So 2.0 is really framed around HTML5 and the operators working together and the industry overall. Because as many of you know, HTML5 sounds good. Everyone talks a lot about HTML5, but there's fragmentation within HTML5 overall. And if we're not careful about it, we have the risk of having that splinter into different solutions overall. But that obviously gives you the capability of having a runtime solution as well as browser-based capabilities as well. So that's important to us, again to our thesis about reducing the fragmentation area. 3.0, which was, I think, where we'll spend a lot of conversations, and I'm looking at Jose over here, who's Telefonica become one of my very good friends, is really about, when we talked about in the previous panel, was kind of talking a bit about the role of the operators and where things are at, and where are the core assets that they really bring. So if you talk about it, it's obviously distribution. Most of the operators are very strong from a distribution point, retail points of presence. Also the customers that they bring, but clearly there's the network and the access that they provide overall. So again, into kind of this thesis about, so what can we as an industry do overall in this area? What we announced as part of what we're calling the 3.0 is really a network API set. So the solution is, if you are a customer from, let's say a developer, and you want access to Telefonica, Jose will talk to you about the Bluvia situation. But if you also want access to AT&T or China Mobile or things of that nature, I'd rather not do one API for each one. I'd rather not do separate, different installations. Can I have a common set of APIs in those areas? So what we announced is we'll have, by September, kind of in-app billing. So again, if you read it from a developer perspective, you have one common set of APIs. And what WAC will do is abstract those APIs to Bluvia for Telefonica, for AT&T, their solution, for Verizon, for Vodafone, and the likes in that area. And that seems to have very, very good value. So you've got the in-app billing, you've got authentication, and then you've got the ability to tap into the other network APIs and solutions that are there overall. So again, if you look at it, I'm not sure, I mean, Jose, I'm sure we'll talk about, but on average, what we're seeing is that each network operator has probably about 100+ APIs overall. So the whole notion is, can we build those and have those solutions? So I think it was Paul in the previous panel was talking about, you know, it'd be nice if I could text and have that cross-device in those areas. And I think that is one of the aims that we have overall. If you look at the board members and who participates, Randall Stevenson, the chairman and CEO of AT&T, was speaking at our press conference in Barcelona. And one of the things that he commented about is, regardless if you're a wireless user a broadband user, a fiber user, right? And regardless if you're on a 3.5-inch display, 7-inch, 10-inch, a notebook, or a 50-inch plasma, you want access. You want the ubiquity of having those solutions across device, across network solutions. And we think we're kind of in a unique position to be able to do that. So READ-WAC is not as a standard bodies. There's a lot of standard bodies that are out there. We'll work with the standard body solutions. It's not about a game where the operators are trying to bring back the walled garden or come up with a solution. It's not that at all. It's really about taking open standard solutions and helping manage it in a way where you really truly do have a common solution. So it's taking standards and then building a platform that provides that access capability to the developer. So again, if you're a developer here in San Jose and you want access to the market in Beijing, Madrid, London, you should have that, right? Because the other thing that we think is kind of fascinating from an apps perspective is there's a lot of developers who are developing a lot of apps that, one, is very difficult from a discovery perspective. Obviously, two, as we'll talk about, is kind of the monetization of it. But three is I won't even call them necessarily long-tail applications, but they're applications for certain verticals or segments that don't have access in those areas. So we were having a workshop last week. And what's kind of surprising to me, one of the Philippine operators, Smart, was saying the largest population non-Philippines is actually in Italy, which kind of surprised me. And so there's about a bunch of nurses that are there that have family. And they were talking about how do they work with some of the European operators to have applications that tie in from a transaction perspective to the Philippines, right? Obviously, here in the US, there's a huge industry or populations, whether they be from India, from Latin America, things of that nature. How do you provide the solutions? And often what we find is, quite frankly, a lot of the solutions that are out there are rather bluntly US-centric from a content perspective. And our kind of view is what we need to do is open that up, open up that access, provide that cross-device, cross-OS, abstract away from that, and let the person choose what's the device that they want, what's the application they want, and what's the operator they want, right? That's kind of our role. So with that, I'll leave it to those kind of quick comments and let the other people chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.